Hey everybody, it is Eric and it is Jay, and we are back from Kentucky and Lemon South Fall, soon to be renamed the Colonel and the Sinkhole in 2023. Now this is of course the Corvette Museum racetrack, and because I hadn't been there since 2017, I made the pilgrimage, and there are of course dozens of unique Corvettes, a shrine to Saint Zora, and the biggest gift shop ever in a car museum, thereby making it the Cracker Barrel of car museums. When you buy a new C8 Corvette, there is an option on the sheet to pick up your Corvette from the factory. This is done at the museum and was being done when I went, so I opened the door to all of the exhaust fumes in the world as Harold Neuhauser, Concrete King of Iowa, was gunning the engine in the lobby. That was butt terrible, but kind of hella sweet to see it. Still the best part of the museum though, the sinkhole simulator.
Speaking of people who don't actually own Corvettes, second time out we really hit the Corvette owner attire hard. That means New Balance shoes, jorts, branded ball caps. Nicely done there, Eric, by the way. A lot of teams really got into this.
Sadly, there were no Corvettes. I don't know how that happened this year. We had 4 the previous year. The closest thing we got was a 3rd gen Camaro on Corvette wheels. Close enough.
You'll never hear these words from my mouth again, but I was actually kind of looking at Corvettes the other day. Mistake by the Lake, Mike Zeide brought his Cleveland Corvette owner theme and really nailed that. Is a character that he calls Uncle
A futile and stupid gesture, great team name, came back with their cancer awareness discount colonoscopy theme. Team Captain Travis also wore his Corvette attire to the SEMA show. That was hella sweet.
More hella sweet Corvette garb. You not, and their Cobalt. They have what they call the taco team. These guys are all Chevrolet service techs at a dealership, so they know the typical Corvette owner. They made outfits, spelling is hard, but they were really great.
Hella Sweet was our Hella Sweet 16, celebrating the 24 Hours of Lemon's 16th birthday in October. All the fall races this year were part of the Hella Sweet 16 celebration. One of the things we brought back was the reverse slalom for pole position, which again reminded us why we don't do it, because you're all terrible at driving in reverse, except Toyota PE Motorsports. They had their Toyota Avalon, which caught fire last year. They brought us their bribe in the windowed block that had caused the fire, and then they nailed the reverse slalom.
Hella Sweet, we had a sweet 16th birthday cake decorating penalty.
Another hella sweet penalty, our judge Aaron Cole was off getting married, so we had teams give him some wedding well wishes.
Congrats, Aaron and Kelly. Many more happy years for y'all. Woo!
Congratulations, Aaron. Sorry, Kelly, that you have to deal with them the rest of your life.
However, it was not all sunshine and lollipops. There was a lot of butt turboing and failuring, and these rookies in their MX-6, they were both. First, their cage totally failed tech. Then they noticed it was leaking gas. Well, sucks to be them, but they're going to try to work through it. So the first thing they did, they dropped the fuel tank. Turns out the previous builder who put the terrible cage in there also burned through the fuel tank. That was really enough for them. Turns out the car had been completely consumed by fire recently. They were like, no, we'll see you next time.
Less of a technical failure and more of a driving failure, Rust Cartel crashed their 1965 Ford Fairlane, crumpled it up really, really nicely, and then pulled it out. Looks pretty ugly, drives about as poorly as it did before.
I don't even know what kind of failure this was. Too many wheels racing. These are motorcycle guys. They've got this base model Escort that they have updated with motorcycle carbs because of course they did. Now that thing blew up. They said, we need a high-powered Escort head. They found an entire Escort GT, the super hot one. Like, okay, we're going to buy the whole car. It's 4 hours away. We're going to bring it back, pull the head. This is going to be great. Brought it back to the track, pulled the head off, and it does not fit. Totally different head. They were done. I think that's just a judgment failure.
We're going to call these next few cars How to Win at Your Own Race. And the first one we're going to talk about is Goodby Racing and their Volkswagen Beetle. Now, these guys are firefighters from Louisiana, and they bought the team Half Fast's old bad Beetle, which is to say non-turbo and with an automatic. They've run it 3 times, including this race, and every single time they've beaten Half-Fast's turbo Beetle with the bad one. And before that, the same car run by Half-Fast also beat the turbo Beetle. There's probably a lesson in there somewhere.
To be fair, Half-Fast, actually now they also have a Miata and it looks awesome, so they may have learned their lesson.
Not real professional racing are always winning the race of most easily identifiable by sound. We could explain it, but just listen to the supercharger that they bought off of eBay Motors.
Speaking of forced injection, Sparkle Turd showed up. They had this ridiculous, huge internet purchased $10 turbo they had bolted on their car. We're like, hey, no way that thing is going to work. It ran great. The only time we saw it sidelined in the paddock, we were like, no, they were just having lunch. Unbelievable.
It's a horrible idea. Where did you find this thing?
eBay Motors.
Couple more good themes. Smoky Unit with their Volkswagen Golf did a tribute to race car driver Tommy Kendall's street parked in LA, often spotted El Gallo Grande, which is a 1973 Oldsmobile. They turned their Golf into El Gallo Paquito?
Good Spanish, Eric.
I do my best. Muy bien.
Little but terrible would have to be the Boomer Bird Ed White Downey Petrunik. They brought this thing back. This is in result. A little while ago, there was a totally boring red BMW, and we just said red is not a theme. They took that as a challenge. They bribed us with red everything. That was kind of great. It was but terrible when they took it too far, and 9 minutes into the race, they puked red transmission fluid all over the track because they forgot to screw in the tranny drain plug.
Hella sweet. Donkey's Flying Carpet did a theme that everybody should have thought of by now, but hasn't. Is a supercharged GM V6 and a Camaro, and this time they were the 1990s favorite television sociopath Zach Morris and his group of ne'er-do-well high school kids from Saved by the Bell. That was amazing, except for the fact that their AC Slater looked like a second Screech, but still, well done.
Okay, let's move on to the awards. First is the heroic fix to Rich Misek, our own timing and scoring guy. Not long before our race, the entire racetrack was hit by a tornado, and it jacked this place up. I mean, cars were thrown all over the place. A lot of buildings got wiped out, including the timing tower. That was kind of exciting. And one of the things that we did not know got destroyed until we showed up was the timing loop. So Rich goes, sets up his equipment, nothing, and he spent the entire next 24 hours debugging the timing loop, running new wires, checking 800 different cables with his ohm meter to make it work. The alternative would have been, 10 people hand scoring the race that we picked up in the Home Depot parking lot. I don't know how we would have done it. Great fix, Rich. Thank you.
I Got Screwed went to the fourth dimension for their Jeep Cherokee, which of course is not a Jeep Cherokee. We've talked about this car before. It is actually a Cherokee body draped over a Lexus SC400. It was built by a talented fabricator named Chris Hall, who unfortunately passed away this past January. His teammates really weren't mechanically inclined and wanted to have the car continue racing. They found some locals who wanted to race, kind of handed the car off for basically nothing, and those new guys immediately broke everything on the car. Unfortunately, Chris, who built the car, was not able to offer technical support, and these guys were kind of in an on-the-job training situation, trying to piece it all together as they went. It kind of got put back together. They kind of turned some laps. They're going to spend the entire winter trying to figure out how this thing was built.
Special trophy is the How Do You Know When a Minivan is a Race Car award, and it went to Rad Dad Racing. The punchline, by the way, is when it's apparent. So their whole theme is dad jokes, and it's great. But what really is awesome here is they are racing a 2005 Caravan that has been in the family since, the Truman administration, basically. And this thing actually kind of works. They hosted the potluck at this race, which was fantastic. But I think best of all, they have a scheme coming up. They're going to do a national road trip with this car. And that has never gone wrong with a Chrysler product before.
Judge's choice went to Corolla the Dice. Fantastic name, by the way. Where have you been on that one, everybody else with a Corolla? Now, someone in the family bought this car brand new in 1987, handed it down to one of the kids who drove it through high school. When it came time for him to go to college, he parked it behind the barn. When he graduated college, he dusted it off, decided to race it in Lemons with his family. They came out, they raced it really slowly and wrenched on it most of the weekend, but they were smiling ear to ear the whole time. That was hella sweet.
Organizer choice went to the wonderfully named Smokin' Hot Flashes and their R107 Mercedes. Stephen Hebert, Lemons crazy man with some awesome stuff, including the Dodge Monaco. He's building car after car after car because, what did I say? Crazy! Anyway, his wife said, oh, if you're doing this, we want in on this. So he built them this Mercedes. It's 4 wives. Stephen, of course, had to make a special, shall we say, pleasure-inducing shift knob for them. I don't know how they felt about that. Being an old R107, yeah, it was barely running most of the time. Throttle cable got all messed up. When they finally did make it run well, they racked up a whole bunch of penalties because, you know, awesome Rudy Uhlenhaut power. They did the penalties really well, including very insulting fluent French.
Non, moi je vais parler en français. Je suis très très désolée de tout le monde, ok? Ok? Désolée de tout le monde. Et bien voilà.
This group kinda new favorites.
The eBay Motors Halloween Meets Gasoline trophy went to It'll Be Fine and their Eagle Summit wagon. Again, another car that doesn't actually need a theme, but it has one anyway. This is, of course, Mini Van Halen, and the car is Eddie Van Halen's guitar. That's spectacular on its own. To boot, they were dressed in glam rock outfits the entire weekend. They presented us with a hella sweet 16 gold record, and they were blasting Van Halen out of the car on the track the entire weekend. Now, it's worth pointing out that with the Doppler effect on the front straight of Van Halen playing, it sounds like somebody screeching for help at the top of their lungs. So it's a little alarming, but you eventually kind of get used to it. Overall, so well done, it'll be fine.
The winners were Test Card F. What is Test Card F? Well, like all good Lemons themes, if one person gets it, perfect, and this was that. First of all, this was a Rover SD1. Now, you know that we're true car guys, because not only do we know that it's a Rover, but we don't even say Rover 3500, which is really what they were here. Oh no, we're so well educated at Dial, we know enough to say Rover SD1. That's what they said in England. We're so smart. Turns out in England, they also have this thing called the BBC Test Card. I don't understand this at all, but if you're English, you look at this and you go, oh, the BBC Test Card F. Brilliant! That's our kind of theme. They're also running, you know, a Rover, so how bad can it be? This car actually goes back to California, where it was kind of a disaster. At Ginger Man, it was also a disaster. They puked their transmission fluid all over the track. This time, they showed up. They looked like they had been working at the British Leyland factory, drunk and on union strikes half of the time, covered in nasty British grime. Nevertheless, they did get this car to run, I don't know, the majority of the time, which it wouldn't even do brand new. So, well placed, beautiful car, great theme, IOE.
And here's looking at you, nutshell.